Welcome to this explainer video for just beginners tips on how to do cross stitch. So we're going to do the street sign mini ornament from my Thailand ornaments line, and so let's see what all is in here first. Okay, so when you get your kit, these are all the things that will be included. All right, so we have an embroidery hoop. I really like these ones that I found. They are really soft and really high quality, so I'm excited about those. It's tiny. It's going to be very fun, but a little fiddly at first to work with, but we'll figure it out. These are two different ribbons that I've included for if at the end you would like to turn this into an ornament for your tree. This one has little elephants on it. So you can set those aside for the very end. Here's all the floss that is needed for this pattern. So we have it all ready. It should be more than enough for you to be able to complete this pattern in case you have any mistakes. So we'll keep that here. And then we have two different pieces of fabric. This is called Aida or Ada. This is what you will be cross stitching into. And you have two choices. You can either put it in the hoop while you're cross stitching, which is normally what you would be done and what I will do. Or this one is really quite stiff. And so if you would prefer if it would feel better in your hands, just to cross stitch directly into here and then to mount it in the hoop for display, that's an option. And you can totally do that. And then this, I included a piece of white fabric for making it all neat and clean at the end. You will not need this until the very end when we put it into the hoop for display. And this will really help so that it doesn't, especially if you put it on your tree, that light doesn't show through all the little holes. So it'll kind of give another layer in the back. I included two different needles. So this is make sure this is focused here. Okay, so this is an embroidery needle. It is not sharp on the end. So this is in a huge eye, really easy to thread. So this will be a great option if this is going to be a gift for a child. I also included just a regular, I think it's called a darning needle. To me, it's a regular sewing needle. And a little harder to thread. It is sharp at the end. I prefer it. I know it's not normal for cross stitching, but sometimes you make mistakes and you have to take stitches out, and this needle can make the holes a little bit wider when you go through them. So yeah, it's up to you. I included both. You can choose. This first one is a great option for children. And if you, like me, work on your cross stitch on the couch and you're sewing each stitch, sometimes, ask my husband, you might accidentally poke the person next to you. So if that's you, maybe this non-pointed needle would be better. So we'll set the white fabric aside, but keep your needles handy. The only other thing that you will need that is not included is a pair of scissors. Any scissors work fine as long as you can get close enough to cut, and as long as it cuts cleanly. I like these little embroidery scissors. Okay, first of all is how to put your Ada fabric into the hoop. So you're going to start by unscrewing it, and I always unscrew it almost as far as it can go because it's really thick fabric and you need more play than you think you do. So we'll do that. Okay, you want to go for the middle, but it really doesn't have to be exact because this is just for while you're doing your project, and you'll have a chance to really zhuzh it and make it perfect when you are going to mount it for display. So I've put the plain circle hoop underneath, and I'm going to stretch this as wide as I can and just fit it over the top. Okay, not easy, but it's okay. I'm going to try to hold on to all of it and pick it up so that I can really look at it. You do want it to be straight up and down, and that looks great. So I'm going to start tightening it up. In this part, if it is a gift for a child, they could need some help with this, because they have really strong fingers. So I'm going to do it about halfway, and now I have a chance to sort of make sure it's how I want. So I've pushed it so that it's flush. Sometimes I even push it a little bit farther so that it puffs out just a little bit. That's just how I like to do it. Okay, see this little dimple on top? I don't like that. And so I come underneath and just pull. It goes away. All right, this actually looks great. Sometimes it takes me a couple times to get it how I want it. So now I'm just going to really tighten it. I just don't want it to be moving around while I am working. Okay, that's it. Now it's in, and you can get ready to do your project. The next part we'll include right now is that it's important to find out the middle, because it's really a good idea to start your project in the middle. I am not scientific about this at all. I just eyeball it. So to me, I'm going to put the needle in and see if that looks right to me. Yeah, that seems the middle. It's lining up at the top. Okay, so I'm going to leave that needle in there while I get my other stuff ready, and then I'll look at my pattern and decide where I need to start for the middle. Okay, we're ready to start cross stitching. This is the pattern that you're using for this ornament, this street sign. This is a pixelated version of what some of the downtown street signs look like in Chiang Mai, and there's different landmarks specifically from Chiang Mai. And normally there would be a street name, but I just had the name of the city on here. So on the pattern, you're going to see grid lines. Let's get, maybe my printer doesn't show. Okay. Just hard to see them on the video, but there are grid lines, and so these big boxes are 10 by 10. Inside here is 5 by 5, so that can be used for quickly finding out where your middle is, and you can easily see the grid lines on this blue here. That's helpful. And down here are all of your colors. They're really small, so this is helpful for me to see if I need to print these bigger. So each of these colors is going to correspond to the floss that you got. And so when you see the color on here, then you're going to see what the name of it is, and come over to your floss and come and unwind it, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Okay, so we're going to start with the middle again. We're going to find our middle. This whole grid here is 10, 20, 35, and I think the same, 35. So we're looking for like 17-ish to the middle, 10, 15, 16, 17. Ooh, I can use a pencil. Okay. So we're 10, 15, 16, 17. We're going to go about here, same this way, 10, 15, 16, 17, about here. So let's find where those intersect. Right about here. So again, this does not have to be scientific, but we're saying, oh, that can't be right. 5 and 5. Let's do this. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So we're going to do 5, 10, like 12-ish. You know what? I'm going to eyeball it. This is the middle of our sign. I'm going to call this one the middle. Many ways to do the same thing. Now, an experienced cross-stitcher might take this, count over, and just start this whole line. But we're going to start totally from the beginning. Let's say this is your very first time cross-stitching. You're not used to counting. We're literally going to start from the middle and work our way over here. So we're going to need this color first. Another thing I'm noticing with my printing is these two blues look really similar. So we'll work on that. They are very similar blues, but this one in the middle is the dark blue. So you'll have different patterns and different colors, but just take your time to map it out and figure out which color you're using. So we're starting with dark blue, we're starting in the middle. Now let's work on floss. Okay, so got our floss on here. This is the color that's going to be used the most in this pattern, so there's a lot of it. We're getting blurry here. This is my first time to make a video, a craft video, so lots of things to learn. All right, so a skein of embroidery floss has 6 strands in it, and I added 2 more because you're going to need at least 6, maybe up to 8 strands depending on how much you use. When you are trying to separate one strand from your skein of embroidery floss, let's make sure this is very clear. Hello. Okay. Don't just pull it to the side, otherwise you will end up with a huge snarl. So what you're going to do is hold on to one, and you're going to grasp the rest of it in your hand like this, and you pull the one. Now don't freak out, it might start looking snarly, but look, it just pulls right out. And there we have just one. Okay, so we're going to lay that there. I like to kind of put this back to being straight. Great, and lay this to the side for later. All right, this whole pattern is worked with 2 strands, and I pull out one long strand and double it up. I find it's the easiest way to do it, especially for a beginner. Some people like to use more strands in their cross stitch to have a really puffy look. I actually really like seeing the X's. I think it looks more traditional. So I'm just getting my 2 ends of the same strand to meet and touch each other. And I'm actually, since I need that needle, I pulled a pin. If you have a pin at your home, you can do this. Otherwise, you'll just have to, oh, you have 2 needles. You can use the other needle. I'm going to put that there because I like to remember where I'm going to start. All right, so I'm using the really skinny needle, so I'm not going to be able to thread this through the camera, so stand by 1 second. Okay, I got it started. Working? There we go. Okay, so it's just barely through, and I'm going to pull it over halfway. This part might be hard to see on camera. Let's show at the end. So there's my loop at the end. I've pulled my thread a lot of the way so that it doesn't just pull off the end. Even still, while I'm stitching, you've got to hold it like this. Otherwise, when you pull, it'll pull the tail right out of the eye of the needle. So now we have a loop at the end and we're ready to start. So we're going to look at our center square and we're going to poke our needle in from the back. This is the main skill of cross stitch. That is a challenge, but it is so fun once you get a hold of it. Okay, so I've put my needle in from the back. We don't need that pin anymore. And I'm going to pull this almost all the way out. Every other stitch you can just freely pull, but this one I need to flip it over and make sure I don't pull my other end of my string out. And all right, we're going to look here. This whole thing is a grid of dots, and you're going to look at the squares that are in between the dots, and those are the squares that correspond to each square on this pattern. Okay, so we're going to, I've never done this through a camera, I gotta look to the side. Okay, we put our needle back in the square that is across from the one we came out of. And again, this is our first stitch, so we need to make sure we get through here. We're gonna put our needle through our loop, and this is all we do to knot our first stitch, and you pull it till it's taut. And we're in, and it's not coming out. Okay, let's pause here for now. Okay, so now this whole thing is basically a counting extravaganza. The whole name for this craft is counted cross stitch. And so you're gonna be doing a lot of counting, and that is part of the fun of this craft. So we've said that this is our center, and this counts as 1. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So let's keep that in our heads. We're going 12 stitches from here and to the right. This is my biggest rule of cross stitch. Every single X needs to be going the same way. That's what gives it the satin look. This thread is made of really fine, I think, yeah, it's cotton, but it's very shiny when it's all stitched the right way, the same way. And so we're going to make all of the underside of our X's going out 12 stitches this way, and then we'll make the over stitch of our X's walking back. So I'm committing right now to every single stitch of this project is going to have, I would call this the left side under and the right side over every time. Lots of this can be however you like. In Thai we say arai godai, but this is my one hard and fast rule. That's what's gonna make it really pretty, is to have every stitch going the same way. Okay, so I'm gonna put these 12 in to the right and I'll come right back. Okay, so we've gone 11 and this is the 12th stitch that we're pulling through. Pull it all the way. And now we're gonna go back. Now, I did realize that for me, I'm quite used to this, and so I'm used to just feeling around, hunting and pecking until I get the needle in the place that I want. That's the skill that you learn while you are, getting better at this. If you need to, you can flip it over and find where you're going each time. It takes longer, but this is already a meditative practice, so take your time. Okay, this is a good chance right now for me to double check. Really important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Yep, 12. You do not want to miscount and put in extra or not enough stitches early on, because later when you come through and you're using your other colors and then there's something that doesn't belong there, oh goodness, that's a lot. You either have to run with it and change the pattern. Sometimes that's fine if it's a more organic shape. This is a rectangle, so you're really not going to want to have things messed up. Okay, I'm going to go through these. See how I'm just crossing back over? Let's see if we can get real close on this. Okay. Just pulling through. Finding the cross. And pulling it back. And we're just doing that many, many times. Come back when we get to the end of this line. I got a little snarl. Okay, I got a little snarl here, and I thought it would be a good chance to show you how to deal with that. So don't keep pulling and tugging from the needle side. We're going to pull it out a little bit, see what went wrong. Usually it's just kind of twisted. Nothing's really wrong with it. Oh, this is a little bit. One of the ends, one around. I normally don't craft with the camera in between me. There we go. Okay, no big deal. Keep moving on. Sometimes when you're going around and around, your thread gets all twisty. This part, I don't know if I can get a camera. I'm going to hold this just straight up and down and let the needle just dangle. And sometimes it twirls around a little bit. Yeah. And then just keep on going. Okay, next lesson. I've been stitching along and I'm eating up my yarn, so you see the tail that I have is getting really close. I would not want to go so far as to eat up this tail, because then I can't keep pulling. So every once in a while I need to pull on my string gently, and this goes up and up. So now I have given myself more space to keep working. All right, we've gotten to the end of this thread. You can see that's the only tail we have. I like to play thread chicken. I don't suggest you do that as a beginner, but I get pretty far to the end. So that's probably the last stitch I'll be able to take. So we need to fasten this off. Now, this is not clothing. It's not a blanket. We don't need to be tying knots to make sure that this thread needs to, stand up against wear and tear. This is just going to be hanging on the wall or on your tree. So all we need to do is just tuck this thread underneath of some of the stitches we've already done. So this is the part, okay, right here. This is the part that is hard to do on this itty bitty embroidery hoop, because look how much space is between where I'm able to move my needle, there we go, and where I get down to the thread on this side. So ideally I would be putting the needle through maybe these 4 or 5 threads and then pulling it tight. I don't know if I can get that in there because of this. I might be able to stretch it a bit, but yeah, all right, that works. Let's go through that many. Make sure we don't lose our tail. push it. Again, very fiddly inside this tiny embroidery hoop. Right here would be the reason why you might prefer to do this project on the fabric alone. I still like the hoop. Okay, then we're just going to cut it so there's not too much hanging off. And that's it for that first thread. I'm going to keep going through all my blue threads until I get all of the dark blue areas done. That's the middle of this sign right here. So I'm going to work on that. Yeah, good time to mention. So this pattern has running stitch over it. So this is, I'm going to use 2 strands. Sometimes people use 1. I want it to really show up. But this is all going to be done at the end. This is the in front, and the blue is the background. So I'm just working on the background now. All of that writing will be the very last thing that I do. So don't worry about doing your stitches where the writing is. We'll do that later. So this is the whole center part of the sign. So we've done all this. Again, the blues, the way that they are printed here, you can not even tell the difference. So I'll just tell you, this whole center part is the same as the post. And then the frame is the same blue as is in these little sky bits. So I still have this dark blue on my needle, and so I want to do the post. I ended right about down here, and so I could just stretch my string underneath and start here. However, that could end up showing through. See, it's holes. The fabric has holes in it, and I don't like to see the dark threads behind. And so I think I'm going to tie off my string, and I'll count to the right place, and I'll just do the post down here. A lot of cross stitch is just making plans out like that. So I'm going to finish out this blue, and then I'll talk more about what I think the next best thing to do. So it seems like it would make sense to do yellow next because there's so much yellow and it's right around this dark blue. However, I was noticing that there's a gap in the yellow. I don't normally like to work over gaps. I know I'm going to do it down here, but I think after I'm done the dark blue, I'm going to do this little strip of tan, and that's just a tiny little bit, and then I'll move on to yellow. All right, so we've finished the whole sign, the whole background of it. So I just want you to see how shiny that looks, and that's because all the X's are the same way. And so that's why it's important. So, okay, now we're going to do the Chiang Mai writing. Sometimes when people do the single lines, they just use 1 strand of floss. In that case, you would have to put a knot, or sort of like, a snarly knot at the end so that it doesn't pull through. But I am going to use 2 because I think that in order to see this cream on top of the dark blue, it's going to look much better with 2 strands. So we just do it the same way we always do, with the loop at the end. Here's one little tip. While you're not cross-stitching, it's really tempting if you're in the middle of a stitch to just leave your needle in the fabric. I always put it outside of the design area because, again, sometimes these needles make a little bit of a wider hole, and I just like the rest of the background to look all the same. So that's one tip. Okay, we're going to look at our pattern. We're going to see where we start. There's no reason not to start at the beginning and just make our way across. So we're looking right here. So let's use this yellow corner as our landmark. We're looking at this corner right here, and we're going to go up 1 stitch from there. That's where I'm going to stick my needle through. So there we are. And again, we're going to do our regular way of starting off our thread. Regular way of starting off our thread. We pull it that far. And I'm going to start with the loop. So let's go sideways. It's so funny how hard it is to do while looking through a camera. I'm going to restart that first one. I don't like where it came through. It's not exactly with the corner of the X. It's always good to make sure that you're coming out at the right spot. Okay. one to the right, push it down in, and let's get it through this loop. Okay, and I'm going to, ooh, yeah, let's make sure we can see that. Sometimes this happens. All right, I'll just be writing with thread, going space by space, one at a time. Even if it's a long line, just go space by space. That's our first letter here, which isn't the first sound in Chiang Mai. If you know Thai, that's the S sound. Okay, I want to look through this and just see if there's anything that needs to be pointed out. So this one's super easy. You're just going space by space, verticals and horizontals. This one, you're going to be doing some horizontals here. Again, just do across one square at a time, and then do that one. You'll go around, same here. And okay, these are all just either verticals, horizontals, or diagonal across one space. There's one stitch right here that is different. This is diagonal across two boxes. Okay, so you're going to pull in or out here and in or out right there on the other side. But nothing else should be tricky. And when you're done, you'll just tuck it behind strings as normal. So let's see how it looks all done. All right, we finished it. All done. Street sign says Chiang Mai. This is what it looks like on the back right now. I always like to see all the different threads. Okay, so I'm going to do a really quick tutorial on how I have been finishing mine off. So I'm going to take this out, and I'm actually going to go and iron this. It's not strictly necessary, but it's going to, oh, look how shiny that is. It's going to go into the frame better. If it's ironed, we can be really picky about exactly how centered it is. Right now, this is going to boss us around these ridges here. So I'm going to iron it. I will use the white cloth. When I iron, I'm going to put this on top and iron so that nothing gets messed up. I'll probably do both sides and iron. I'll have to put it all the way hot if I'm going through both layers. Okay, I'll be back. All right, time to make this all pretty. Put this out of the way. So I'm going to take my white piece of fabric and lay it down. Make sure there's not linty stuff in between. I'm going to lay this down here, and they're going to be sandwiched together, and we're just going to put the whole thing back together, but this time with the white fabric behind it. This is going to be a little bit of trial and error because I'd like it to be centered. I think it looks nice when it's really centered. I'm holding it up to the window so I can see that if it's by the window. The way it is right now looks good to me. I'm going to put the top of the frame on and see if we can keep it like that. right, so this is looking good to me. Again, I'm going to make sure that dimple is sort of stretched out. I'm just going to pull on all sides just to make sure it's nice and stretched in there. Okay, so the next part is a little scary because you're going to be cutting into the work that you did, and it is kind of a no turning back situation after this, so it needs to be just how you like it. We have this fabric on this side now, which will help if you're hanging it on the tree for the lights to not show through the holes, and just makes it look nice and clean if it's going to be twisting around on the tree. So how do we get rid of all this flappy stuff? There's so many different ways, and please look up on YouTube and do whatever one you think will look great. If you'd rather have nice fabric covering up the back, you can do all sorts of things. I've been doing a really easy way, that's what I'm going to show you, which is just to cut it all off. So you do have to make sure it's nice and tight because you're not going to be able to open it up anymore because you won't have any fabric to pull tension if you want to put it back in. So I forgot one other thing that you are going to need is a nice strong pair of scissors. I'm going to be using these to initially cut most of the fabric off, and then these could work, but I have these little ones that I really like. They're really skinny, but again, any scissors will work. It just might take a little more time to get in where you want it to be. So I'm going to do a big chop all the way around. I'll show you how it starts, and then I'll stop the video for a little bit. So, scary feeling, but it's all right. This is what you're making it for, to be an ornament. So I've got it right up against here, as close as I really can with these somewhat chunky scissors. I'm going around. You can be pretty confident to not cut anything you don't want to because that's so wide on that side. You can't really mess it up, but it does feel scary, I admit. All right, let's just keep it going. It's a lot to cut through, so you want some nice strong scissors. We're not being neat this first time around, we're just getting the bulk off. Okay, so get rid of all that stuff, and you'll either go again with these scissors and be really neat with it, or if you have some nice small scissors, this is the time. So we'll just give it a little cut. Okay, let me pause and just say the other way that I know that people do it is instead of cutting off a circle with only this much left, some people cut off a circle with basically the width of the hoop. So like another centimeter. So you would have a centimeter of overhang, and then you would cut around to come around your centimeter of overhang and clip, 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 and you would have these little tabs, and then you would glue them down over the edge. That's a lot of fuss, I think, for something that's just going to be on the tree. It isn't going to have a lot of wear and tear. I think that the tension of the hoop is enough to keep everything all together. If it would make you feel better, you could run a bit of glue around this circle and just even kind of rub it in with your finger to help keep things all together. So let's see some little bits we missed here. And then I always take this, I turn it upside down and just rub all of the fuzzies off. See what we have left, and that's pretty good. I think it's really nice and neat and not see-through, at least not much, just a little glowy. Okay, let's get rid of this stuff, and I'll show you what to do with the ribbons that are included in your kit. So there's 2 ribbons, and this is what I've been doing, but you can make it your own. Been looping this through to be the ornament hanger. So this one, you're just going to put a quick knot into it. There you go. And if you would like, you can add a bit of add this bow on top. Nice and shiny, has the elephants on, so it goes with our Thai theme. Tuck that in. Ooh, I just pulled that. Okay. All right. Pull this tight. And then just make your ribbon behave. All right, and that's it. All right, we did it. So this is how it works to make these ornaments. This is just using the street sign as an example. Let me run through the other patterns real quick and see if there's any specific tips for them. So this one again has the these straight line stitches on top to make the mango look like the slices. So just look at where the lines are going. If you're just take the smallest or the shortest path possible. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to see this. Let's make it. There we go. Okay, so here you'll have to go across, diagonal across 2, diagonal across 2. I don't think I go any farther than 2. Sometimes there's a diagonal across 3, but yeah, diagonal across 2, 2, and this is just one space at a time. So just take your time. See the little white bits that are in here among the cream, kind of give it more of a rice look. This little guy, again, you'll do all of the orange and then do this work on top for the face, and you can make the face look however you want. This is just a suggestion, but use the black and red, make whatever kind of little face. This one is pretty straightforward. It's just the 2 different browns to make the galère. This one, I think it looks best if you do the eyes as a normal X and then take just one strand of black, just one, and stitch straight line around these boxes. Then it doesn't look like it has X's for eyes, and it works on this elephant because the eyes are so small on the face, the proportions look fine. On people, I'll get to that later. I would just leave it as the normal cross stitch. This one's pretty straightforward. Yep, everything is as it seems. This one, I think the only part I wanted to note was on the W. These are long diagonals, so it only goes over 1, but I think it's down 5. So it's a diagonal 5, diagonal 5. And then same thing over here. That's not normal. That's the only time I have that in these patterns, but it just looks so nice not having to make the W super wide. Okay, this guy, so fun, so many little details. It is up to you if you want to do one strand around the eyes. Excuse me. I tried both ways and I like it just regular with no outline. I think when it was outlined, their eyes looked so big compared to their face, but maybe you like that, so give it a try. You can always pull out the one strand of outline if it's just too much. All right, I hope you have fun with whichever ones of these that you pick. I've had a lot of fun making them. All right, thanks. Bye.